If you're an e-commerce brand founder and you get this wrong, everything else will fail. So what I'm talking about today is, some conversations I've been having recently, and it's honestly something I talk about every time a new client joins me in my paid programs, my Ecom Blueprint and Up-Level Mastermind. We talk about the foundations, right? The foundations are the bedrock of everything that you build upwards. So I'll actually reverse the analogy, right? The foundations start at the top and everything trickles down. So basically you've got your assets and then you've got your marketing, which lead to your assets. If your foundations shaky, right? If they're faulty, if they're loose, if they're non-specific, then your marketing will be non-specific, your assets will be non-specific, and you'll be spinning your wheels saying, no one's buying my stuff and I don't know why. And so when I refer to foundations, when I go through this with clients in my programs, we talk a lot about basically product market fit, and we talk a lot about audience matching and messaging. Now, I'm sure you've heard about all this stuff before, and I'm sure, you might have just rolled your eyes because that's what I used to do as well. But the more and more that I've been in this e-commerce game, 13 years plus, the more important this becomes, the more saturated markets become with products that appear to be the same or similar. The more that people are exposed to other brands that are similar to ours, the more important this stuff becomes. And so if you're not focusing here, if you haven't got your messaging, your market audience targeting dialed in, you're going to lose. You're going to fail. And then you're going to question why the meta ads didn't work. You're going to question why my website is not converting, why my emails fall on deaf ears and I don't get results. So I'm just basically forewarning you here that that's what happens when our foundations are faulty. Okay. So the process that we actually go through, which each client that comes through, the Ecom Blueprint program, Up-Level Mastermind, is we need to just really start questioning these specific things, right? So questions like, who are your target audience? Okay, just understanding exactly who they are. Now you might think, they're, health and wellness professionals working 9 to 5s, between the ages of 20 and 40, mostly females, for example. That's just kind of reeling off what Karmix used to be. And that's fine, but you need to go so much more granular than that. The emotional triggers is what is going to get people's attention when it comes to our marketing stimulus and serving a particular purpose, right? Meaning like a problem solution for your product, why they're going to choose you, because they need to feel like their product is for you, right? You need to think in extremes of why they need your product. Okay, just saying it's better quality and it's better this, better that, like features is firstly not going to get people's attention. It's not going to differentiate you amongst anybody else because everybody says that they're better. Everybody says that they're different in these ways. And so you need to get down to the emotional level of who your target audience is and why they need your product. You need to understand this on an intimate level. You need every piece of correspondence, an email flow, right? A retargeting ad to speak to these pain points. Otherwise, there's no urgency about it. There's no desire, and really there's no need for what you do and what your product is. Like honestly having real talk, and this is again the conversations I have through my programs, because you will have it no matter what you sell, whether you think it's an essential or a non-essential, whether you think it's a one-time purchase or a multi-time purchase, right? You need to find out exactly what that is, because without it, without understanding that wholeheartedly and being able to communicate with your demographic properly and effectively, you just won't make any sales. Okay. There was a chart that I drew for a client recently, just on a call, one of my mastermind clients, and we spoke about the messaging that we were talking about here. Now, these guys have an amazing supplement company, okay, and they're revolutionizing the industry where they're basically able to prescribe, right, based on data and based on inputs, what people should be taking in terms of their monthly supplement program. And we were talking about their messaging because they were struggling to communicate with their target demographic. They were struggling to say, market what their proposition actually really was and their real market need. They were just perceived as another supplements company, falling on deaf ears. They were very mainstream between the lines. Whereas we need to make some noise by being completely different. The more you can stretch yourself or pull yourself apart from other brands doing what's perceived as same or similar things, the better, right? Because that is polarizing. Okay. So in this case, we spoke about obviously their target demographic, and then we spoke about what their product actually is and who would actually use it. Now, in this case, in terms of the data that they're tracking and able to prescribe, as they're very unique and very revolutionary, it's very clever. We spoke about the association that people have with another brand. So for example, of like a watch, for example. So calling people out. You either wear that type of watch or you don't. If you don't, you move on, you keep scrolling in an ad, for example. If you do, I can guarantee you're basically going to be watching that piece of content or reading the next line at least of that ad. So you've got their attention, right? That is something very simple. It's just one of many things that you can do to differentiate, but that's what we would call a hook. That's what we would call polarization in terms of who we're actually targeting, actually literally calling out our target audience. Do you do this or do you not? Do you live here or do you not? Do you take supplements or do you not? Right? Do you know what cold pressed juice is or do you not? Right? Cleansing, same thing, right? You can use it in anything that's obviously applicable to yourself, but having proper foundations is so crucial because it makes everything else easy. You've basically got, two choices. This is the way I see things with my experience in e-commerce, in business generally, okay? You've got choice number one and jump straight into the marketing, all right? I can basically guarantee if you don't have that thing down pat, things are going to become very difficult for you to make things work and resonate with your target audience, right? If you're loose, if you're saying the same thing, if you're saying this better quality baby rug or better quality hoodie or whatever you're saying, it's just completely falling on deaf ears. If you have no credibility or trust in the marketplace, why would they buy you over like a Nike, for example? Okay, that's option number one, is to spend no time on market messaging and no effort onto our actual target audience and what their wants, needs, and desires are. Option two is you can spend a hell of a lot more time, most of your time, on that component. Absolutely doing it to death so that you know these people inside and out more than they know themselves, right? You can speak to them through your language about how they wake up in the middle of the night or how they wake up in the morning or how they feel or what their frustrations are. An example of this brand I just talked about before was that people are frustrated that they're not progressing with their current supplements routines, or they don't know what the data within their device actually means. Okay, so they're selling the solution of, well, now you do have certainty, and here's exactly what you need to improve those numbers. Okay, so by actually saying that physically, how much more powerful and specific does that become to someone, more meaningful, right? That is where you spend most of your time, so you can push that into your marketing. It becomes easy. Selling and converting on site becomes easy, right? It is very, very hard to keep manipulating ads and keep tightening this and keep tightening that and looking for the thousands of things that you can do to optimize your website when fundamentally your business is flawed or your messaging is flawed. Not to say your product's flawed or your idea is flawed, but to say that relationship between what it is you're selling and who it's actually specifically for, how you're talking to them, is dysfunctional, right? It's basically you're speaking over here about what you do and your audience is receiving, or rather they speak like this over here. So you need to meet them in the middle, meet them where they're at, not even in the middle, just meet them where they're at with the language they're using and how they're feeling and how they buy and purchase and make decisions. Okay. So this is exactly how you succeed, right? And conversely, this is why most people fail, because they fail to distinguish why they are different from the next person. That business has been going for 20 years, or that cheap product on Amazon that looks exactly the same, even though it probably is a hell of a lot better. People don't know that because they can't differentiate themselves. It's just another commodity, okay? And this is becoming a lot more important as time goes on, as people are starting more businesses, as items and products become a lot more accessible, right, and commoditized. It's more important. You need to be building a brand. You need to be building a tribe of people that you can speak to and rely upon to tick sales over and grow your business until such time you have the reputation and word of mouth and great experience and repeat customers, depending on what your product actually is. But I'm just speaking, obviously, in the context of karmic in this case. So yeah, I just want to really emphasize that. Don't make this mistake. Don't make the mistake of skipping to the marketing, because that's the fun bit. It's fun to spend money on ads. It's fun to manipulate ads, but it's very, very frustrating. It's the worst thing in the world when you can't crack these ads, when you can't make them work, when your website can't convert. So look back on what you need to do. And another point, you need to be able to iterate as time goes on as well. Meaning this is like a 6-monthly process where it's like, yep, cool, I've got this. This is who my audience is. This is what they want. This is how I speak to them. That might change over time. For karmic, for example, we thought our demographic in the early stages was women between, honestly, the ages of 20 and 30, right? People on Instagram love to show off stuff and, promote themselves and influence and stuff like that. But as time went on, the market changed from women probably 35 to, 55 or 60, right? Because they could afford it. They were really dedicated to, their health journeys, and it was a consistent thing. It was quite a hardcore program, etc. And so we were able to move and iterate as our market was dictating so. Right? Same thing with niching. Like we started with yoga studios, and then we moved into, football clubs and Pilates and all running clubs and cycling and stuff like that. And we were dictated by where the market was actually taking us at the time. And so you need to be able to review this and iterate over time as well. It might not be the same as it is 6 months from now, right? So just be really, really malleable with what that looks like, okay? And versatile and open to who's actually buying your product. Okay. So look, I hope this was valuable for you. It's, as I say, probably the most important thing. Above all else, we can talk about the marketing, we talk about website conversion rate optimization, we talk about all these things, but honestly, none of that matters if we can't get the foundation set right. The messaging, the market, and the target audience that we're actually going after, and being able to speak with them in their language to get them to resonate and take action on our products. Okay. So look, I hope this was valuable for you. If it was, love a like, love a subscribe. I'm creating videos like this all the time, so feel free to follow along. If you want to know more about how we help e-com brands, you can click on the link below, check it out. But other than that, thanks for being here, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.